This video is about the locking mechanism on the CX-52 Cipher Machine. My Cipher Machine has a pin tumbler lock on the right side of the machine near the bottom, a little bit off-center in the data plate. Now my machine came without any keys. The lock cylinder was removed but included with the machine. The data plate had been removed and cut or broken into two pieces when a previous owner tried to get inside the machine somewhat destructively. Later on, I found a set of keys on eBay and then reassembled my machine and repinned the lock to match those keys. As a side effect, these keys have a different serial number on them than my machine does. Now the keys normally come in a leather holder, like this. It's marked with Hagelin Crypto's logo inside. And there's two different kinds of keys. If you look closely, you'll see that one key has one notch on the handle, the other key has two notches on the handle. The key with one notch is meant for a normal operator of the machine who is not to have access to keying materials, whereas the key with two notches is for a supervisor who is to have access to keying materials and will be able to key the machine. If we look at the two keys with the one-notch key in front and the two-notch key in the back, we can see that they have 5 cuts. The two cuts closest to the handle, the bow of the key, are at the same height, whereas the 3 cuts near the tip of the key are cut higher on the two-notch key, all 3 by the same amount higher versus the one-notch key. If you have a CX-52 that has the lock in place but came without the keys, note that the lock turns counterclockwise and it only turns a little bit. So you don't have to turn it very far. It turns counterclockwise. It's a dual concentric core lock with a second core for the 3 pins closest to the tip of the key and a single inner core for the 2 rearmost keys. So you have to keep that in mind while you're picking it, because that means there's 2 shear lines for these 3 pins, and you have to pick all 3 of them to the same shear line. If you pick them to cross shear lines, the lock will just bind up. There are also Rust-Win locks that were made in the same way to give more flexibility in master keying systems. So let's take a look inside the machine now. If you use the key that has a single notch, it'll open the outer cover, but it won't open the inner cover. The outer cover opens, the inner cover is still locked. Now if you use the key that has 2 notches, it opens both covers. You turn it the same way, the same amount. It opens the outer cover and the inner cover. Let's get these innards out of the way so we can see what's going on a little bit better. First, let's look at the one-notch key. When I turn the one-notch key, it moves this hook, which engages this other hook that's riveted to the outer cover, but it doesn't unlock the inner cover. When I move to the key that has 2 notches, it still moves this hook right here, and it also opens up the inner cover. This latch right here hooks into a hook that is riveted to the inside of the inner cover. Notice that the whole thing rotates around the same axis as the shaft that holds all of the pinwheels in place. And it's turned by this lever that is attached to the outer core of the lock cylinder, the core which only turns if you use the 2-notch key. Now, if your machine is like mine, it might have come with the lock cylinder removed, but this latch still in place. And during shipment, this latch can rotate to where the inner cover is locked into place, and you're going to have to find a way to get the thing open. Okay, for this segment, I put the machine back together. Let's say that you have a machine that was like mine, where the lock cylinder is missing. You're able to get the outer cover open, but the inner cover is still locked because that lever is still in place. There's a couple ways you might be able to get that lever open non-destructively. One is to get the operating lever out of the way and see if you can move the linkage by reaching with a tool through the hole that this handle stows in. You might be able to push the lever open out of the way. And then the other way Let me get the lever restowed. If you can get access to the paper compartment on the bottom by pulling this latch and then taking off the bottom cover, you might be able to move the lever through the hole right here that the operating lever reaches through. Now, to understand what's going on better, let's take a look at this lock cylinder while I turn it with the two different keys. Here's the outer casing of the lock. This right here is an extension of the outer secondary core, and this right here is the end of the innermost core. If I take the key with one notch and turn the lock, you can see this is the end of the hook, the other end of the hook that locks the outer cover. It's turning. The entire inner core is turning, but the outer core is not turning. Now if I switch to the key with two notches, both the inner and outer cores turn at this point. So the inner core is connected to this hook, which opens the outer cover. The outer core turns that lever inside, which flips open the latch. So if you have a CX-52 Cipher machine that you can't get inside because you don't have the right keys, I hope that this little peek inside to see how the locking mechanisms work will help you understand how you might be able to get inside of it without breaking anything. Good luck.